What's up, mi gente? I'm Andres Incapia, and you are listening to Mixtape, your favorite Afro-Latin podcast.
Even for people who don't understand the lyrics, what they feel is the energy that comes from the origin of the sound. It's Afro-Cuban music. It's a sound that carries a story that goes far beyond the words. It's an energetic transmission. That's why audiences respond so strongly to the Buena Vista Social Club musical on Broadway.
Feel the heavy clouds, how they're gonna pour rain on me. For my skin is dry.
Today's single presents an interview with artist Mel Semé. Mel is a musician, singer, composer, and songwriter who graduated in music from the coveted Universidad de las Artes in Havana, Cuba. Throughout his career, Mel has played in the symphonic orchestras of Havana and Camagüey. He has participated in several teaching and performing projects in Europe. He led the group Black Gandhi and has participated in groups such as Skyland, Barcelona Percussion Project, Ex Maquina, and Gone Beyond. Currently, he's in New York portraying Ibrahim Ferrer in the Buena Vista Social Club musical on Broadway. Our interview with Mel is part of the investigative work for track 27 of Were You Listening, where we dive deep into the song Bruca Maniguá, which Mel sings as part of the Buena Vista musical. Check it out.
As the hot sun burns so heat, I keep running just to see how wild, how hard is the
Today's single title is inspired by the song By the Sea by Mel Semé with Gone Beyond and the Human Experience.
about the sea. All my past lives and my darkest lies, you and me.
Let's jump right in. Welcome to the Mixtape podcast, Mel. It's really a pleasure to have you with us today. Why don't we start with a little bit about your story and your career as an artist?
It all started when I was very young. I was born in Camagüey, Cuba. I'm the youngest of 12 siblings, and all my brothers and sisters were part of the church's choir and musical group. So, from the time when I was about 4 years old, I was already involved in the music scene at our church, in the city where I grew up. Around the age of 8, my mother took me to the local music school, and that's where my music career began. I studied there until I graduated with a degree in music from Instituto Superior de Arte in Havana. After finishing college, I began traveling the world. I went to Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Denmark, and finally to Barcelona, where I've now been living for the past 20 years.
Puso un baile una judía para una gran diversión. De timbalero un ratón que alegraba al gambía. Un gado da
And how did you end up in the Buena Vista Social Club musical? What made you audition for a role in the musical?
Honestly, it's quite interesting. I never dreamed of working in theater, much less on Broadway. One day, I received an email from a casting company in New York. They found me online. They simply asked me to send a video of myself singing some Buena Vista songs. And almost immediately after, they told me they wanted to hire me. At that moment, I wasn't looking for something like this. And I had no idea that something like the Buena Vista musical was going to occur. But they reached out. And at first, I didn't want to do it. I live in Barcelona, and I already had my own projects and tours with a group of musicians from California. And whenever I traveled to the U.S., I would always go to the West Coast. New York was never a city I imagined myself living in. It was always just a stopover for me. Those were some of the reasons I thought were stopping me from becoming part of the musical. I had my own projects, tours, I had no intention of living in New York, but they invited me to a workshop where I got to meet the entire creative team. That's when I realized what an incredible opportunity it was. The people involved are truly world-class artists, and it has really been a good decision because since then, I haven't stopped learning. I'm still growing every single day.
Siempre fijo hacia el timbal, para el chivo me toca, para descansar un poco. Salió el ratón medio loco, también voy a descansar.
When you had to send the recordings, were there hints that it was something regarding the role for Ibrahim Ferrer, or you just had to send some recordings about Buena Vista songs in general?
Yes, from the very beginning, they told me they were considering me for the role of Ibrahim Ferrer. That really impressed me because Ibrahim Ferrer is one of my favorite artists, someone I've admired for years. He was truly exceptional. At the same time, I felt a personal connection with his story. When I first arrived in Barcelona, I lived without legal papers for a couple of years because I wasn't allowed back into Cuba. During that time, I survived by playing music in the streets and in bars. Ferrer also went through a similar period in life. After having had a successful artistic career, the revolution came, and he lost everything. He spent years singing in the streets, shining shoes, and doing whatever he could to get by. So, in that sense, I've always felt close to Ferrer's story. Playing his role on stage, bringing him back to life is not just an honor, but also a big responsibility for me.
I think you already touched on this a bit, but how do you create a connection with the character of Ibrahim Ferrer and with Buena Vista Social Club?
Yes, since this is my first experience acting and doing theater, I originally thought acting was about faking things, pretending to be someone else, creating a fictional character. And yes, part of that is true in that you do need to learn a script and understand the story you're telling. But what has been magical for me, and really beautiful, is that the producers encouraged me to bring part of my own life into the role, to use my own memories, my emotions, my personal story, and include those into the script. So, it's become a type of connection between my life and Ibrahim Ferrer's life, a way of using my own truth in service of the script. That's how I've been able to build and honor Ibrahim Ferrer on stage.
Son dos enamorados que encantados gozan del amor.
Mi gente, before we continue, I wanted to take just a few seconds to remind you that in the Mixedtape podcast, we aim to center the contribution of Black people in culture across Latin America, the Caribbean, and their diasporas through dance and music. If you're enjoying this episode, be sure to check out our Were You Listening track 27, in which we dive deep into the song Bruca Maniguá with the help of Mel Semé and ethnomusicology professor David Garcia. Give it a listen, you won't regret it. Also, remember to follow us on Instagram at mixtape.podcast and click the link tree in our bio to find all of our episodes across all platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Okay, back to our interview.
Mamá la negrita, se le salen los pies la cunita y la negra veces ya no sabe qué hacer.
As part of your musical career, you had already worked with Afro-Caribbean music. For instance, Your 2016 album Skyland includes a version of Drume Negrita that I really like. I've been listening to it since I found your work on Spotify. Not only that, the song Drume Negrita is also part of the Buena Vista musical that you ended up being a part of. Why did you decide to include Drume Negrita back then in Skyland?
Well, actually, Skyland was a project I started with an incredible singer named Tula. At the time, we were both involved in a larger collective with more singers and musicians. But whenever we had a free moment, the two of us would sit with a guitar and sing Cuban songs together. It was a very spontaneous thing. You see, my voice had its own unique qualities. It's not a highly trained, polished voice, but it has character. Tula, on the other hand, has this beautifully refined, clean, and soft voice. We always said her voice was like the sky and mine was like the earth. And that's why we called the project Skyland. And we both felt a connection with traditional Cuban music. And Drume Negrita was a song that we enjoyed from the very beginning. When it came time to select tracks for the album, it was one of those special pieces we knew we had to include in that album.
The song Bruca Maniguá is also part of the musical. In the song, Arsenio Rodriguez talks, and you sing, about the pride of an enslaved black man and his existential need for freedom. What does this song communicate to you?
In Afro-Cuban tradition, as history tells us, enslaved people were obviously oppressed, and they had been taken from their homeland and forced to adapt to a new world. One of the ways they found liberation before they became physically free when slavery was abolished was through culture, through music. In those songs, there was pride, there was strength. Music became a way of communication among black people during slavery and even after slavery, because that form of expression through culture, art, and music has carried on into today's Afro-Cuban culture. So, in the particular song, you hear a black man who is proud of his African roots, who finds liberation in nature, and who expresses freedom through the song. For me, it's a reflection of the importance of culture, art, and the place where you're born as expressions of freedom. No matter where you are, no matter what life circumstances you face, you're connected to your roots. You can feel like yourself. You can express yourself authentically. You can express without having to hide anything because you carry your identity within you. For me, being born in Cuba, carrying the Afro-Cuban tradition in my skin, in my DNA, this song gives me a simple, powerful way to express who I truly am and what freedom means to me.
Yo son carabalí, negro de nación, sin la libertad no puedo vivir.
The song Bruca Maniguá was first recorded in 1937 by Orquesta Casino de la Playa, which was formed by white Cuban musicians. According to the author David Garcia in his book titled Arsenio Rodriguez and the Transnational Flows of Latin Popular Music, I quote, "Afro-Cuban oral traditions and speech were unintelligible to most listeners of Cuban popular music, especially Casino de la Playa's core audience, which consisted of tourists and the white Cuban elite in Havana." End quote. With that context, do you draw any parallels between the audiences that first heard the song played in the voice of Miguelito Valdés and Orquesta Casino de la Playa, and the audiences who pass through Broadway and hear the song in your voice today?
To begin with, This production completely breaks the mold of what Broadway usually is. For anyone who knows Broadway musicals, it's highly unusual to see a show where all the songs are in a language other than English, and where the story is so specific. Cuban musicians whose lives largely unfolded in Cuba, many of whom only became widely known later in life. So, in a way, singing this music on Broadway feels almost, quote, unquote, absurd, totally out of place. But the truth is, music knows no barriers, or rather, music breaks through whatever barriers exist. Even for people who don't understand the lyrics, what they feel is the energy that comes from the origin of the sound. It's Afro-Cuban music. It's a sound that carries a story that goes far beyond the words. It's an energetic transmission. That's why audiences respond so strongly to the Buena Vista Social Club musical on Broadway. You see teenagers, kids, and longtime Broadway goers who are used to traditional shows. All of them experience it as something fresh and different. Even without understanding the language, everyone connects with what they're observing and the energy and power that the music transmits.
Although the song was written almost a century ago, it seems to still carry a lot of significance regarding the situation of many Black and Afro-descendant people today. Do you find any connection between the theme of the song and the current realities Black people face in the Americas or in Europe, especially since you've lived in both places?
Well, it's quite a moment, as they say, the perfect moment in the perfect place. Right now, the song Bruca Maniguá in particular, but the work of Buena Vista Social Club more generally represents the perfect moment and the perfect place for an artistic expression like this to be happening in the United States, and especially on Broadway, which is like the Hollywood of theater. So many things are happening. It's almost absurd what's going on specifically in the United States, but also in many parts of the world, with all the differences, extremism, and the divisions between human beings because of skin color, culture, or the country where they were born. And so, being able to raise the flag of authenticity, of something that expresses the right to be who you are, wherever you are, to be able to say, I am Karabali, to be able to say, gente, Bruca Maniguá. That in the jungle is where authenticity is found. In nature is where one connects with authentic. Expressing a bit of that idea of being who you are, wherever you are, is something that is incredibly relevant, resonating deeply with everything happening today, especially in the United States.
So thinking precisely about that sentence in the chorus of the song, gente de Bruca Maniguá, thinking of La Manigua, the brush, the wilderness, is there any answer you're looking for in La Manigua these days, literal or figurative?
So, I never thought I'd live in New York. New York is a different kind of jungle, an entirely different wilderness, the urban jungle. It's really interesting because technically I live in New York, but my real base is in Barcelona, Spain. And I live outside the city. I grow my own tomatoes, basil, cucumbers, and we live just 5 minutes from the sea. So now I kind of have that. It's like two sides of the same coin. I'm used to having lived 20 years ago in a fairly rural, natural environment where I grew my own vegetables, and then stepping out that into the other jungle, the urban jungle. There's a purpose and a reason why I'm here. And this is a jungle that also nourishes me with experiences and all kinds of learning. It's a place where I also have a lot to contribute. At the same time, I feel that my body and mind know that at some point I'll return to that place where I can be more in touch with nature, where I can be near the sea, where I could bring all these experiences and turn them into legacy for my children, my family, and the people I connect with. I'm grateful to be in the urban jungle, and at the same time, I know that my body belongs to the jungle of nature, the trees, the sea.
Welcome to the good life. This is a good life. Welcome to the good life.
So you don't see yourself living permanently in New York?
Life has the final say, but in my mind, I believe this is something to which I must give my all right now. I'm a person who enjoys a more creative, slower paced life. So at home, I have my studio, where I dedicate myself to writing music. And of course, from time to time, I go out, go on tour, and do all of that. The world of Broadway and living in New York is my current special experience. But I don't see myself staying here for the next 20 years.
I understand. Okay, so tell us a bit more about your music. What do the listeners encounter when they look for Mel Semé's music? Because there are several different styles there, not just what people encounter in the Buena Vista musical. Personally, I was captivated not only, as I mentioned, by your version of Drume Negrita in Skyland, but also by the track Open Windows. The subtitle of the song, Improv for My Mother, caught my attention and I really enjoyed the sound of water. Well, I think it's water, in some parts of the song.
Well, ever since I was little, I've been exposed to a pretty versatile world within music. In church, when I started playing as a kid, I played whatever was needed. I played piano, guitar, bass, accordion, drums, whatever was available. And that has shaped the rest of my life. I went to music school to study symphonic percussion, which is the percussion used in the symphony orchestra. For a time, I was also a jazz drummer, but I've always played piano. I've always played guitar. And in Barcelona, when I was living there illegally, I started singing. Well, I had sung in church, but I had never really dedicated myself to singing. Never considered myself a singer. So I kind of forced myself to sing. Later, when I started working with the musicians from California, I got more in touch with the North American folk music, folk, Americana, country music, and electronic music in general. So there's a wide range of music that I like. I don't think I really have a favorite. I have a pretty rich creative universe in my mind that I let flow freely. I'm fortunate not to be tied to any record label or anyone demanding that I follow a specific path. So I can make music at my own pace and in the way I want. If you search for Mel Semé on any platform, YouTube, Spotify, or music platform, you'll find a lot of different things. Because throughout my life, I've followed different paths depending on where creativity has led me. I think that has been both a blessing and a curse. Because it's true that while I've had the freedom to do so many different things, it's also like I haven't followed a single path that defines exactly who Mel Semé is. And that's something that's happening over time. I suppose I'll get there before I die, but I feel inclined to allow freedom of expression for all the things that emerge creatively in the moment. So what I've released over time includes instrumental music, music to listen to, traditional Cuban music, electronic music, and reggae too. For a few years, I was in a reggae group called Black Gandhi, which is also on Spotify.
Moi j'ai fait ma part pour changer mon destin. Je veux 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 changer mon destin. Bandera, mucha bandera. Banderas, demasiadas barreras.
Ahora, dentro de poco.
Soon, I'll release a new album inspired by Buena Vista music, where I do some covers of Buena Vista songs along with some original tracks, and it will be available in the coming months for people to listen to.
This is great to hear. You bet we'll be waiting for it. And I don't know, maybe in the end, what defines you is precisely that variety.
Sí, la versatilidad.
Yes, versatility.
Yo son carabalí, negro de nación.
And to finish, like I mentioned when we communicated earlier, this is totally voluntary, so if you don't feel like doing it, I completely understand, it's no problem. But would you mind singing a little bit of your rendition of Bruca Maniguá for our audience?
Yo soy un carabalí, negro de nación. Sin la libertad no puedo vivir. Un delicado con mi corazón. Tanto maltratar, cuerpo tan frío. Mundele combate, siempre está a luchar, que está por mucho que yo lo diga, siempre tan maltratar, ya no me está labio de morir, ya no me estaba labio de morir. Ya no amame, ahora cuenta un lindo Bruca Maniguá. Ya Bruca Maniguá, siramento suave Bruca Maniguá. Ya Bruca Maniguá, un paso, pero un llega Bruca Maniguá. Yandere Bruca Maniguá, yo mandita Bruca Maniguá. Yandere Bruca Maniguá.
Excelente, buenísimo. Muchas gracias, lo agradezco muchísimo.
Gracias a ti, compadre.
Man, that was incredible. Thank you so much, Mel. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure our audience will appreciate it too.
Todo bien, encantado. Hasta luego. Chao, chao.
My pleasure. Bye bye.
My sorries and my worries by the sea. All my past lives and my darkest lies, you and me.
Before I say goodbye, I want to thank Mel again for sharing some of his time with us. We look forward to your latest work. I also want to thank Carlos Javier Felix, who translated Mel Semé's interview to English, and Gerald Harrison, who recorded the voiceover of Mel Semé in English. And to our audience, thank you so much for listening. This is Mixtape. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at mixtape.podcast and click the link in our bio where you can find all of our episodes across all platforms including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you have any suggestions, ideas for collaborations, or reflections about any of our episodes, email us at themixtapepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. This is Mixtape.